to say is it's attached. I think there were 2 attachments on the leg, weren't there? And at the back of the torso, the top of the head, and on each hand there were attachments for the armature to go into the wall. And then when we mended the hand, there's another attachment being put onto the left arm, which you can just about see a ring going round the arm that goes into the wall to secure it. So
how is it actually fixed into the wall then?
You have to ask Joe about that.
There were wall bolts put in. Or is it lag bolts as well?
Mm-hmm.
where you excavate a bit of the wall and then put a bolt into mortar, and then that's the fixing with the plates on the hands.
And was it an expanding bolt?
I don't think so. I think in some places they were mortared in.
Were they?
Yeah, I think so. Mortared. Because otherwise an expanded bolt puts such a lot of pressure on the actual brick itself. And what we didn't want it to do was pull out. So we wanted to lock it in a kind of in 3 directions or whatever, so that the forces wouldn't pull itself out. It would be kind of contracted by the other bolts or fixings. Something like that was, I think, in our minds.
Well, I seem to remember at the time that the woman from Islington Arts told Rob that we'd never get it up there, and we only got it up there because Joe's so brilliant at doing that sort of thing. And we did.
Well, I think the winch was the key.
Oh my goodness. Right, I'm going to stop praising Joe now and talk about Stephen King, who actually didn't see the Spriggan before he wrote his Crouch End short story, because it was first written and published in 1980. And it just seems to be a coincidence that he rewrote and republished it in 1993, which is the year the Spriggan went up. And actually the story is about a walk in where the new River Village is now, in that old industrial area up the north end of Crouch End. And I don't think he walked along the Parkland walk and saw the Spriggan at all. That's just a Wikipedia myth, or so I believe. There may well be a Spriggan up at New River Village. I've got no idea about that. I was going to show you a film of what there really is at New River Village, but my film won't work on this computer, so I'm sorry about that. But what there really is the River Moselle, and I have a little film of the River Moselle, which runs right through New River Village underground, but I can't, the computer won't do it. Yes, some people thought that the Spriggan was a bit scary. These are Spriggans that are something to do with some sort of computer game that you can get nowadays. So there are other Spriggans in the world, and other people have imagined what Spriggans might look like. Apparently they're capable of swelling to a gigantic size, and they're thought to be the ghosts of the ancient giants of Cornwall. They haunt old ruins, cromlechs and standing stones, and they're grotesque in shape. They're blamed for commotions and disturbances in the air, mysterious destruction of buildings and cattle, loss of children and substitution of changelings. So they can be really nasty. They don't have a good press at all. However, Richard Myers, the warden of the Parkland Walk, did point out that Crouch Hill Spriggan lives on a nature reserve and therefore has no reason to quarrel with humans who are supporting its work of propagating and protecting the growth of plants and wildlife. So it's quite a well-behaved Spriggan in terms of Spriggans. The name actually came out of this book that Teresa lent me at the time, which has quite a lot about Spriggans in it. It's called The Vanishing People, Fairy Lore and Legends. If anybody wants to look at that, I'll leave it there. What else am I going to say? Oh yes, this is another example of how the Parkland Walk has changed, because now, of course, it's a very well-known and very amazing graffiti wall, and that's what was there yesterday. I mean, it literally changes from day to day, and some of the graffiti artists who go there are very good, and they're not 18, they're more likely to be in their 30s and 40s nowadays. The reason why when I was proposing a sculpture for the Parkland walk, I settled on the idea of a Spriggan was to reflect the growing permaculture movement in the neighbourhood. Bill Mollison, in this picture, came to Crouch Hill in early 1992 and gave a talk about permaculture at Crouch Hill Community Centre. A group of people who were called Abdul, Marek and Alpi put together the first permaculture course in the UK shortly following this, and very quickly became a group called NatureWise. I think they started off being called Natural Garden Services, and they soon became NatureWise, which still exists, and were joined by Thelma and Sue, who were on the first course, which was at St John's Day Centre. It was taught by Andy Langford, and there were about 17 participants in it, some from far away. So the first course was also responsible for planting the first urban forest garden in the UK in the summer of 1992 at Crouch Hill, on the Crouch Hill site. It's obviously not been looked after for a few years, and there's not much of it left because a lot of it disappeared during the landscaping of the site for the school, but there is still some of it there, and I'm trying to get somebody from BTCV to take an interest in working on it again. These are early permaculturists at Margaret Macmillan Forest Garden, which they planted a couple of years later. I'm not sure of the actual date when that was first planted, but that's ongoing. You know, people go there every month for a work day to keep it going. These were just the tiny seeds of what has become a major movement with huge impact, especially in urban areas in the UK. For example, Rosemary Jones, who was on the first course and went to see Bill Mollison at Crouch Hill, has written and said that the early offshoots, she was working at Sunnyside Gardens for many years, she said the early offshoots of permaculture being introduced to the UK were, for example, Sunnyside being the first place to do street leaf composting and estate composting, which hasn't continued, she says, for the usual reasons. A roof water collection system with a pipe to the wetland area in the building, which is currently closed, I believe. But Teresa, we were involved with that building, weren't we? Because we cooked them dinner while they were building it.
Did we?
Yeah, you've forgotten.
You sure it was me?
So, you know, the fact that Sunnyside does all those things and does quite a lot of permaculture things, and also manages Elthorne Park and does a lot of other work. You know, you can hire people from Sunnyside to trim your hedges and things like that, and they try to do it all in a permaculture way as far as possible. Has had a huge impact on the local environment. I mean, anybody who knows Elthorne Park will have seen it transform from sort of grassland and ornamental gardens to what it is now, where it's got wildflower patches and lots of wild areas. And this sort of thing has happened all over London in the last 20 years, as you all know. What else am I going to say? And of course the permaculture movement jigsaws in with the whole urban food growing movement, which also goes on at this very library out the back here. There's the known food growing project.
And the front, there's a community bed at the front. Sorry, there's a community bed at the front that people can access. The back is behind a gate.
Oh, I haven't even seen the back. I haven't even seen the back yet. Okay. I know a lot of people who are involved with growing things and permaculture from this neighbourhood would like to have come today, but they've got other things going on. They've got something going on at Railway Fields, and there's also the transition camp that a lot of people are at. And
they're going camping.
hmm?
They're going camping.
They're not-
Camping.
The transition camp. I don't even